Okay, it would work properly. So it's very important, no? It's very, very important to understand what the capacity of you, what your organization's capacity is in terms of building your own ICT infrastructure. And if you cannot afford building your own ICT infrastructure physically on site, you can avail of cloud-based services. Because again, no, you use what you can in cloud services. You only pay what you use. Okay, yeah, in most cases. So in contrast to SaaS and PaaS, no, and even your PaaS computing models such as containers and serverless systems, no, IaaS provides the user with the lowest level control of computing resources in the cloud. So IaaS was the most popular cloud computing model when it's emerged in 2010. Yeah, that's correct. But it remains the cloud model for many types of workload. SaaS and PaaS is growing at a much faster rate because it does not need to, even the software development side has been taken as a service already by SaaS and PaaS providers. You don't need to develop your own inventory system because you can use the inventory system of the vendors. You can use the inventory system of the vendors and use that, no? Use that to your advantage, to your organization's advantage without developing. So your developers, you don't need actual developers, you don't need actual developers to develop the system for you and have it hosted in the cloud. Some systems already enabled a finished finished solution already. You just tailor fit the solution to your own individual needs, and that's it. It's hosted in the cloud and it's done. So that's why IaaS is still popular nowadays, especially for those who implement system on their own, but there are already SaaS and PaaS services available online. So use case for IaaS. Okay, so these are use cases for IaaS. So companies use IaaS for a variety of projects. So here are some examples. So one is development infrastructure. So manufacturer needs a development infrastructure for its enterprise research planning application, and it decides to use a public IaaS service to provision development and to test environments for the system in an on-demand fashion. So for example, you develop a system and then you need to test the system, no? You can host it in you can host it online, you can put it in the cloud and use to and identify if it's capable or not based on the demands that you would have in terms of your website or in terms of your system. So the public IaaS give it the operational flexibility it needs to provision and deprovision infrastructure instead of constantly having to ask IT for server capacity, especially when your processes or your transactions or the things that you would need to do online is very dynamic. It means that you cannot estimate properly. So IaaS would be a good solution that would help you identify at first, no, if it's what would be the proper server capacity that you would need for the processes that you have. Technically, you can estimate that, no? Pwede mo yang i-estimate. But you can estimate ano yung gaano kalaki yung traffic, how many people will access your website. But then again, as your business expands or as your business decreases in some certain cases, you will need to adjust your ICT utilization as well. So you need to balance it out. You also have cost-effective computer infrastructure as a company. Sorry, that's a company needs a cost-effective computer infrastructure. Sorry, naputol siya. To run quarterly and yearly risk reports. So during this peak time, its computer usage may be several times greater than normally needed. So again, for example, mas needed yung resources for a particular time, you can actually balance it out and be able to properly structure what would be and properly structure and prioritize resources as needed. And then lastly, you can provide providing capacity on demand. Okay. Provide capacity on demand. No? So a company decides to deploy a private cloud IaaS to provide capacity on demand for its portfolio of retail application that offers as a set of small retailers. So for example, this is a very good example of providing capacity on demand. So for example, you are a big organization, you are operating a big retail, and then you have small retailers there. You can actually implement I implement IaaS, no? I implement IaaS service so that you would be able to balance out, no, the capacity that you would give to smaller units, no? So in this case, retailers, based on certain demands or based on certain factors. So yun siya. Okay? So yan. So let's move to PaaS, no, or platform as a service. So when you talk about platform as a service, PaaS provides software developers with an on-demand platform like hardware, complete software stack, infrastructure, even development tools, no, for running, developing and managing application without the cost, complexity, and inflexibility of maintaining the platform on premise. Okay, with PaaS, the cloud provider hosts everything: servers, network storage, operating software, system software, middleware, database as their data centers. So, sorry. Okay, na-move na ka. So, this PaaS, no, PaaS, PaaS, wait. Sa aga ko ang presentation slide. Okay, PaaS, on the other hand, is much more beneficial for those who develop systems for the organizations. There might be organizations kasi that has in-house developers and they put it inside their own repositories, they have their own storage, they have their own servers, and that's okay. But there are some organizations, especially mid-size organizations, no. Once you get past MSMEs, you become a medium scale enterprise, nor at least a large enterprise even, no. Even for some large enterprises, rather, you have the capacity to develop your own systems already based on your own needs, but you don't have the capacity to host those systems yet. You can actually use PaaS. No, you can have PaaS. You can use PaaS, no, as a cloud service, PaaS cloud service, to develop systems or to create systems, no, without worrying too much with the different factors in terms of development, servers, network storage, operating systems, and in some cases, you can even develop the systems on your own, no, on your own, manipulate, no, or tweak the system on your own because it's easy to do already, like especially for websites, without the hassle, without the cost, complexity, and flexibility. So you might ask, sir, is it practical to have an ICT team in an organization? That would be subject to your resources because it would entail costs. You would need salaries and so on, and infrastructure as well. What is an ICT team without an infrastructure to maintain? So you need to balance those things. There is an advantage of having an in-house developer, an in-house server, and so on and so forth. Because if Google or Amazon would have problems, you would be able to connect still with your system. But there is also disadvantage because of the cost and the even efficiency problems in some cases. So there is an advantage of really availing PaaS, no, if you have an ICT team to work on software, but you don't have the resources to put up your own ICT infrastructure on site. So ganun. Yun. So developers simply pick from a menu to spin up servers and environments they need to run, build, test, deploy, maintain, and update and scale applications. So today, PaaS are usually built around what we call as containers, a virtualized compute model, one step removed from virtual servers. So you would still access virtual servers. But what these containers do is that it virtualizes an operating system, enabling developers to package applications with operating system service it needs to run on any platform without actually modification and the need for middleware. If you are a developer, sometimes you would need to have a server, correct? No, not sometimes. It's most of the cases, especially if you're hosting it, especially if you're, for example, web systems, you would need a server to run your systems in, correct? You would need those servers, okay? Though you would need those servers to host, to run your systems. And this is how PaaS technically would do. there is a server, you do not directly access the servers, no, on PaaS services. You are assigned a particular container, no, you are building around a particular container that virtualizes an operating system and runs the software there. So technically, it seems that you have a machine, a quote unquote server that you put it in, and then you would be able to run the system that you develop. So yun na siya. So yun. Okay. So the use case for PaaS. So these are some use case for PaaS. So by providing an integrated and ready-to-use platform and by enabling organizations to offload infrastructure management to the provider and focus on building, deploying, and managing applications, PaaS can ease or advance a number of IT initiatives. So one is API development and management. So some of you who are developers might know how what the API development is and management is. So APIs are very important given that APIs would help other developers or programmers in terms of the framework of the systems or the family of systems that you have in your organizations. So it would be easy to share data. It should be easy to share functionalities between applications. And these APIs can be enabled using PaaS, or can be you can share resources, data, functionality, APIs using PaaS. You can also properly implement IoT solutions using PaaS. PaaS can support a range of programming languages like Java, Python, Swift, and this using PaaS, using platform as a service, services. The tools and application by user IoT development, application and real-time processing of data which can be generated by IoT devices. So, especially if you're deploying, like, for example, research, this is a common thing that happen, a common thing that happen with researchers, for implementing IoT. Sometimes, your programmers or developers is in one location. For example, Ateneo de Davao, and then you need to deploy an update, for example, or you need to deploy a functionality or feature in an IoT device, such as a sensor, for example. Going there to change the code in the system is too costly and in a sort of way a hassle. So So you link it to the internet, you link it to the cloud, obviously, and then you would upload the necessary tweaks or the necessary updates, and then your system would run. So it's not much of a hassle going, and you don't need to go there to update your systems. And then lastly, we also, for those who use agile development or practices agile development and DevOps, you can use PaaS to really fully configure environments for automating software application life cycles, particularly in integration, delivery, security, testing, and deployment of systems. So yun. So diba, it's sometimes not just sometimes, but in most cases nowadays, we have different software developers around the world. Some are from the Philippines, some are from India, for example, some are from the US, some are from Canada, and you work together because it's a multinational ICT company, and you work together. And sometimes you use, and well, in cases, most cases, you use cloud-based services to share this codes, the systems that you develop with people around the world. And this is enabled using cloud services, using PaaS. Okay. So another use case for PaaS, there are a lot. So you have cloud migration and cloud native development. So for with its ready-to-use tools and integration capabilities, PaaS can simplify migration, of existing application to the cloud. And then modifications can also be integrated immediately, as I've indicated earlier. When you change platforms or you make it as multi-platform, for example, you can also, it's easier. It's an advantage as well, in some cases for when you use PaaS. And then we also have a hybrid cloud strategy, when you talk about hybrid cloud, kanina, so it's integration of public and private cloud services or on-premise infrastructure, and it provides orchestration, management, application portability across all three. So it actually makes systems much more unified and flexible because again, you have a distributed computing environment and scaling is much more easier. Okay? So yun. Okay, and lastly, we also have SaaS or software as a service. So software that it is software that can be hosted in the cloud and you can access and use via a web browser, a dedicated desktop client, or an API that integrates with your desktop or mobile operating system. So you would, in a sense, our LMS, your learning management systems, as Sir Arnold, if I remember correctly, Sir Arnold bang nag-ask ito kanina, si Sir kailangan, let me check. Si Sir Jeremiah, I think, asked kanina, So you can use a web browser to access the learning management system. So in most cases, SaaS users pay a monthly or annual subscription fee. Some may offer as a pay-as-you-go pricing based on your actual usage. So na yung mga cases na yun. So it's actually software that you upload it online and you can access anywhere, okay, using different platforms. So in addition to cost savings, time to value, and scalability benefits of cloud, SaaS offers the following as well. Automatic upgrades, since obviously it's been handled by the vendor. With SaaS, you take advantage of new feature as soon as the provider or the vendor provides it without to orchestrate an on-premise upgrade. And then protection from data loss, because sometimes, not sometimes, but in most cases, backups are available and it's being handled by your vendor or your provider. So SaaS is the primary delivery model for commercial software today. So you would see a lot of subscription to different softwares already. So this is software as a service. There are hundreds of thousands of SaaS solutions available from the most focused industry and department applications like HANA, like SAP, or Microsoft BI, for example, or to much more basic ones, like, for example, your learning management systems, or even for your presentation services like your Canva, for example, or your AHA slides, up to the most powerful enterprise software database. So, sorry, kana siya, focus mo po to siya. But for example, your business analytics softwares, your financial softwares, and even for artificial intelligence software. So that shall be discussed tomorrow or the next day. So SaaS, these are the range of applications that you can visualize the cloud services as this. So IaaS is focused on providing storage and servers, security, and data centers. Your servers are in your data servers. So for example, your data centers and your servers. So those are the solutions that are provided by your IaaS. And then once you use a PaaS, obviously these are for development tools and operating and accessing of operating systems that developers would use for hosting, for example. And then obviously your SaaS are hosted application and app. You would see here that the SaaS covers everything. It is because your hosted applications and apps will not run without your server or storage of the vendor. So it means that SaaS uses all of the services that cloud provides. So the question now is, are you paying much more are you paying more for SaaS than IaaS? Actually, no, because for SaaS, it actually, you're just using the software and the usage of the server, the storage, the network, for example, is being handled by the vendor. So the vendor now can actually just process the server and storage. The vendor even might use PaaS or might use cloud services from other vendors or other cloud-based service providers. So it means, for example, you are providing a learning management system that uses Amazon Web Systems, for example. So your LMS is obviously a SaaS, but it uses other services like an IaaS service to implement the storage and server for the application that they are offering. So ganun. Okay? Okay. So yun. So we also discussed what we call a serverless computing, because we already discussed kanina, also discussed the three services, SaaS, PaaS, SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS. But we will also discuss serverless computing, or simply called serverless. But we'll just define it. No? So serverless computing is a cloud computing model that offloads all back-end infrastructure management, task provisioning, scaling, scheduling, patching to the cloud provider, freeing developers to focus all their time and effort on the code and business logic specific to their applications. So what happens here is that serverless computing runs application code on a per request basis only and scales the supporting infrastructure up and down automatically in response to the number of requests. Meaning that you don't actually need to control, or at least control or manage your the scaling, the provisioning of tasks, for example, or scheduling of tasks. And the developers would only just focus on the application development itself. So with serverless, customers pay only for the resources being used when the application is running, and they never pay for idle capacity. It only is when you use the system, use the infrastructure of the vendor or the provider, that you would be charged, or that you would need to pay. Okay, so this is a current trend in terms of cloud services now, because technically, if your system is idle or it's not being used, then it should not use any servers. It should not be given a particular capacity or a particular provision, because it's not being used at all. And in certain cases, the server being freed up can be used by other people who's also availing of the service. You can also use without any intrusion to your own process or to your own transaction, because again, you're not running it, or you're not doing anything. Okay, so yun. So for traditional IT, so at least we would get an idea. We would get an idea as to who manages what, who manages a particular ICT component. So for a traditional IT structure, for those implementing a traditional ICT structure, application data, runtime, middleware, OS, virtualization, server storage, and networking is implemented by the organization itself. Is this good? There are advantages. There are disadvantages as well. It might be good in terms of security in a sense, because you handle your own security. But this is also this is subject to the organization itself, as to their implementation of the organization. Privacy might be much better in traditional IT setup, because the organization is the owner of the data, and the organization only sees the data themselves. There are also other cons. For example, management of the system. You are the one who would manage, monitor, maintain the system. So it's much more flexible in terms of those areas. For IaaS, it's more on the OS, virtualization, servers, storage, and networking. But on the application side, data side, runtime, and middleware, you manage it, the organization management. For serverless, it's only the application that is being managed by by the organization, But in SaaS, it's all, application data, runtime, middleware, OS, virtualization, server, storage, and networking is being handled by the provider. What is being done in SaaS is that you are using the tools, you are using the features of the application to help out in your transactions or your process or the things that you need to do. SaaS in its own is also has its own advantages and disadvantages. For example, let's talk about learning management system. Let's talk about learning management system, for example. Some of you might, for those who are ICT or ICT or IT managers or teachers in universities here, who among you implements their own, who among you are in an organization that implements their own learning management system through Moodle, for example? Okay? Kinsa, wala nag-raise to hands, wala man ring ulo siguro. So kato, kuan, for some, they would implement Moodle, no? They control their own data repositories, and then they put their data in their own servers, no? So it's possible. But for some, like for some universities and colleges, especially those na medyo may problema sa pag-maintain ng own ICT infrastructure nila, they would use Clipper, for example, or they would before, no, unfortunately it ended already. Sani, what they call this, Edmodo, for example, no, you use the system itself, you cannot change it, no, it's not that flexible, so wala nang disadvantage with SaaS. So here are popular cloud services. I think mahapit na ni mo. Wala pa dahil. Wala pa. Here are popular cloud services. So we have, obviously, kagaganina, I already said this over and over, no? Amazon. Amazon has Amazon Web Services or AWS. Medyo matagal na ang AWS, so it's from 2006. You also have Microsoft Azure, which was launched in 2010. And then we also have Google Cloud, which was launched in 2008. In Amazon, there are a lot of key offerings. You have computing, you have storage, you have database, there's analytics, there is networking, machine learning, AI, mobile, developer tools, IoT, security, enterprise application, and what we discussed yesterday, blockchain. We also have the same, more or less the same services are being done by Microsoft, no? You have, but in a sense, you have your messaging here, you have your media services, you have machine learning and AI, development tools, security, blockchain functions, and IoT. And then for Google Cloud, they're focusing on database, big data, AI management tools, identity and security, IoT, and API. So each individual services, no, popular cloud services have their own individual focus services as well. So let's talk about Amazon Web Service first. So Amazon Web Services is I think it seems like I'm a sales guy, no, na nagka-pitch inyo, ha. So Amazon Web Services is an Amazon company that was launched in the year 2002. So AWS is the most popular cloud service provider in the world. And if you check websites that you use currently, no, like your LMS, you would see at the lower part of the website, no, some case in most cases, well, not most cases, but you would see there, no, that it is powered by something, no, powered by AWS. So that means that they use a cloud service from Amazon. Okay, so let me check if there is, can you see my screen or ang akong presentation slide inyo makita? I'll check muna. Okay, wala nakita akong screen. Ano? Ay, kita dahil, sorry, never mind. Okay. So, for example, dili ko sure, check na to ang kuan. I'll check Clipper, for example. If nakabutang na powered by or something. Wala man, basig na sila sariling server nila or Blackboard. Because I think mas maka-kuanta. So, well, going back kasi tagal. Some of the sites you would see that there is powered by, no, or uses Amazon Web Systems, for example, as part of their system, no, makita nimo dito na. So it means that they are using AWS, no, and you would see a lot of those na using AWS. AWS is the world's most comprehensive and broadly uh, broadly used cloud platform. It is the broadly adopted cloud platform offering over 165 fully featured services from different data servers globally. So the kind of like so these are the different data servers, or the different data centers, data servers, data centers globally. So I think the nearest Amazon Web Service data center here in the world, in the Philippines is in Singapore. Okay, so I think that's the closest. I'm not sure if there is a data center in the Philippines though, but if I remember correctly, the nearest is Hong Kong, then Singapore. Yeah. So Microsoft Azure, okay, is one of the fastest growing clouds among them all. So Azure was launched after the release of AWS and Google Cloud, but because of a government contract that they won with the US, they were able to expand their cloud-based service. That is why security is part of the priority offering of Azure. So you would I think they already have Singapore as a data center here sa Southeast Asia, but the nearest before was Hong Kong as well. But I think if I remember correctly, there is already in Singapore. I think this is outdated. But they also have a lot of data centers in the world. Okay, China, obviously, except for Hong Kong, konti lang. There's only China East and West. Okay, and then for Google, which is also popular because of Google's dominance in the cyberspace, Google Cloud Platform obviously is Google's cloud, so similar to AWS and Azure, it offers similar services, particularly and focusing on data science and data analysis and AI and machine learning. So they are focusing there, and then Google Cloud is also very nice. We use Google Cloud as well. No, so if Sir Patrick is here, Firebase is also part of the systems that uses Google Cloud. We use Google Cloud. The nearest data center again is Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Singapore. So there are common cloud examples. These are again, so Azure, AWS, Google Cloud is cloud services. We also have what we call as cloud, okay, cloud storage. So that we would know about cloud storage as well. So because we know naman na cloud storage is the most common, the most common what they call this? Sorry, nawala ko. The most common example or the most common service or feature of cloud computing or cloud. So we have Google Drive. I think I don't need to explain Google Drive anymore because everyone uses Google Drive. It's a pure cloud computing service with all storage found online, so it can work with the cloud productivity apps such as your Google Docs, Sheets, and Slide. So this application is not just limited to Google Docs, Sheets, and Slide. You have your Google Classroom, for example. You have your Google, what they call this, Jamboard, for example. You have your, even for maps, and so on and so forth. A lot of our Google services are linked to our Google Drive cloud service, and that makes our transactions and processes or the things that we do online much easier. Google Drive is also available on more than just desktop computers because you can access it using iPad or smartphones, and you can access the other online cloud productivity softwares using a mobile phone as well, like your Google Docs. We also have iCloud for those who are using those are our Apple users, or for those with installed iCloud in their Windows or your Linux systems, for example. Apple Cloud Service is primarily used for online storage, backup, and synchronization of your mail, contacts, calendar, and more. And I think no, I think iCloud is much more beneficial for those with iPhone, iPad, Mac devices. But you can use iCloud nevertheless, even in Windows application. You just need to install iCloud. So yun. And then also have, I think, one of the most popular cloud services before Google Drive. This has been one of the most popular, and I remember during my college days that this is the one that we use when we share codes. This is Dropbox. So this is a simple, reliable file sync and storage service that has been there for years and has a lot of collaboration features. There are also other cloud-based services that are already there. For example, for example, kalimut ko. The one that you share a lot of, there is also this cloud-based service that you can upload big files, no? I'm not so sure. Kalimut ko, sorry. OneDrive pa, nakalimutan ko pang OneDrive, no? And then we also have Microsoft OneDrive. Kaluoy, nagagamit na ba ako OneDrive because a lot of people have problems already with Google because Google Edu has well, they extended, no, but they put an ultimatum in terms of the use of the free storage, but they will cut down the storage eventually. So people are transitioning to OneDrive. If you are a Depth Ed teacher, I think you have Microsoft Office 365, if I remember correctly. So you can use OneDrive to upload your documents. But I'm not so sure. No, I think you can confirm better with your principal. But I remember there is. So OneDrive uses, it's similar to Google Drive. No, you can access you can access Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel online using Microsoft Office 365 application, or you can log in using your individual software, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. Okay, yeah. So that's it for the basics. So it's 11:40, but we'll just continue at least at the start for our business drivers for the cloud. So what drives an organization or enterprise to the cloud? And this is a very good topic to explore, given that some of you, might want or might be exploring or might be thinking, would we move to the cloud, or will we start doing ICT processes, or what will we do ICT services for that would supplement our businesses? And that's a very good question to answer. No, what would be my organizational drive or enterprise drive to go to the cloud or to implement an ICT system, which is implemented in the cloud or which just uses the cloud? So that's a very good question to ask. Okay, so yun. So okay, wait. Yun. So an IT infrastructure consists. Let's define first what an IT infrastructure is. An IT infrastructure consists of a set of physical devices and software applications that are required to operate the entire enterprise. But an IT infrastructure is also a set of firm-wide services budgeted by management, comprising both human and technical capabilities. If you are from ICT, or if you are BSIT, BSCS, BSIS, or computer engineering, or BS data science graduate or student, you would know the different components of an IS, or an information system. You have human, you have software, hardware, storage, network, correct? So those are the elements. Actually, na ikaunom, security. Tama ba? No. Humanware or personware, software, hardware, network. Wait. Network, then storage, and then security. Okay, so an IT infrastructure is composed of those factors or components, and it's very important to look at those individual factors in identifying your drive towards ICT or towards implementing your ICT system to the cloud. Do you have a lot of developers working for you that are regular, for example, regular employees that you cannot just boot out or you cannot just let go because you would like to transition? So it might mean that since you already have an IT structure there, you need to balance out. You look at your ISSP or do your ISSP or Internet Information Systems Strategic Plan. And the DICT, I think, can provide you with a very good ISSP training, no? And it's smart because that's part of their services, ISSP. I don't know if they extend it to a private organization, but for public organization, I think they could help with ISSPs, no? With the internet information systems strategic plan. You would look at, if you would look at it, you have your IT developers. You might think that I think it would be beneficial for us to develop our own system rather than getting off the shelf system. So you might opt for a PaaS, for example, or you might opt for PaaS instead of SaaS. Or if your organization is still starting and you don't have any ICT infrastructure yet, you want to implement an inventory, and it would be much of a hassle to hire a developer, you might get a SaaS, or you might have SaaS, no, as the practical solution for you. So you would need to look at those factors. You need to look at the human side or the human factor. You would need to look at the software. What are the hardware? What are the computers that I have? Will my computer run this particular software? Okay, so on and so forth. So will it run this particular SaaS, no? Or a particular software enabled by SaaS? So things like that. You will need to look at those factors. So look at those individual components. Now, take note that the services a firm is capable of providing to its customers, suppliers, and employees are a direct function of its IT infrastructure. And this is what people tend to forget. No? People would tend to forget. We'll end at we'll end at 12, no? It's 11:42. So we have around 15 minutes pa. So I'll just finish this first, okay? Para mas early tayo mamaya. So ideally, the infrastructure should support the firm's business and information system strategy. So take note, again, I have been repeating this over and over. The business and the firm's business and information system strategy. You would need to look at your strategies first so that you would identify the practicality of implementing a cloud-based service. New information technologies have a powerful impact on business and IT strategies as well as the services that can be provided to the customers. So when you look at this infographic, no, if you look at this visualization, your business strategy, your IT strategy, and the IT itself, the IT capability that you have would build up the IT services in infrastructure. You cannot do an online shop if you do not have proper IT infrastructure put in place. Even a simple mobile phone, obviously, can help you in putting up an online shop. But isn't it a computer much better? Is it a computer rather much better than a mobile phone when you do online selling, right? When you put your inventories or you put your inventory, when you put your items online, it would be much more convenient. So we would look at it. And then based from there, you can expand your services, IT services, and infrastructure based on the strategies that you have and the current information technology capabilities that you have. And in turn, this would reflect to customer services, supplier services, and enterprise services. I think it would be good to frame this in the area of education, because some of you are educators and some of you are listening are teachers or principal or IT administrators in organization. The pandemic has propelled us to really use IT infrastructure. Am I right? Wala tayong nagawa, kundi we are forced to implement IT infrastructure in our own workplace. It might not be true for all, no, because some are using the modules, no, or you're delivering the modules to students, but nevertheless, no, you're printing, you are accessing some DepEd portals, so on and so forth. So you would look at even at those very basic level of printing, of implementing your modules, you are still accessing ICT infrastructures that time. So when you look at it, in the education side, if you when you properly anchor your business strategy and IT strategy and the capabilities that you have, your IT services would be much more easier to implement. Why do some universities and colleges some universities and colleges implemented ICT blended or online systems much easier than others? Because at the very first place, they already implemented an IT business strategy, an IT strategy itself, and they have the capacity to have an IT-enabled service. So that in turn shaped their transactions and processes online. So that is similar to the other organizations as well. You would look at strategies first and also look at your capability, the capacity that you have in your organization before going to IT services immediately. How does this relate to cloud services? Cloud services should be a factor, should be a consideration when you do your IT strategy. Well, you need to compare, you need to balance. Will I buy a server or will I opt for a cloud-based service? You would always balance that out. Because if you opted for a cloud-based service, you would now look at what service that you will need to implement. Again, you have different services. There is infrastructure as a service. There is infrastructure as a service. There is software as a service. There is platform as a service, for example. So you, from the basic question of will I buy a server or will I put it in the cloud, you decided to the cloud, you will also now ask question what type of service, and this type of service will shape what your business service or your customer enterprise services are, or it will also help in your enterprise service. So let's just look at the evolution of IT infrastructure before going to launch. So at first, we had general purpose mainframe and mini computers before, and that's how primitive those technologies are. It's very bulky, very bulky mainframe computers, but the processing power is so slow as compared to now. But when you look at it, the time frame of IT infrastructure is just over a span of how many years? It's only a span of 60 years. And 60 years is not that far pa. Diba? Our dads or our moms might be 60 years old, 50, 60, or 70 years old, no? And you would see that it's just a person's lifetime. And imagine in a person's lifetime, IT has improved. IT has improved. And that is why even in cloud services from IaaS, it immediately expanded to services that are software services already. Before, you cannot imagine software services available then and there. You can use the services immediately without doing any development or coding at all. But before, you will need to have a dedicated ICT group to make your systems. But now there are a lot of off-the-shelf solutions. So the essence here is that the evolution of IT infrastructure has rapidly expanded, has rapidly crossed time, and then and we have now basic simple handphones that we can do our transactions, we can do our processes in this small computers. Our smartphones are computers, small computers, which actually is which is good, but at the same time you would be amazed with how rapid things happen. So I'll just finish here. So we'll see here the evolution of ICT infrastructures in terms of sharing information. So for general purpose and mainframe and mini computer era, you have a mainframe computer, those big computers in a central repository. Before, we have ARPANET, for example, the first internet network. No, is it internetwork? It's intra network. No, it's internetwork. inter-network connectivity, no, that from different schools, it's being processed, no, data is being processed in a not a single, but in a single room with, or in multiple rooms with different mainframe computers, and then those computers are connected. And then we reach to a point wherein personal computers are used already. You can connect personal computers. If you remember your networks, you need to connect. You need to use straight through or crossover. No, if you want to connect two PCs with each other, you need to use a crossover so that you can have a peer-to-peer connection. No, and it's only limited to a personal computer interaction. And then we also have our client-server era, wherein there is a server similar to the structure, no, but not that too similar to the structure in terms of general purpose mainframe computer era. There are already big structures, no. You put the servers in a room, but the difference now is that your computer can interact with each other with the server. Before when 1960s, for example, your mini computers can only interact with your servers. But now in this era of client server, your computers can interact with each other, enabled and facilitated by a particular server. And then we have our enterprise computing era, wherein you have peer-to-peer solutions, you have different servers implemented, and then these servers and these computers are sublocated in one subunit or sublocation, and then this sublocation or subunits can interact with each other. But in this time, no, it's connected via public network services. And now we are at the era wherein we are in the cloud mobile computing era, wherein we access the cloud for content, we interact with each other through our internet services, and facilitated by cloud-based services. So yun. Okay. Okay. So yun. In a certain way, is that on-demand functionality also explains the different tools or technology allocations or services that these vendors and these providers would give. No, that it always won't always be available for you, but will be available once you need it. It's not there always. You use it as you pay as you go in most cases, and you use it once there is a need. But that's why it's on demand functionality. So once you use it, you can use those tools or those provisions, no, or those resources given by your provider or your service provider or your vendor. Does that answer the question, sir? I hope that answers the question. Okay, so sir, I have a question. Which technical skills do cloud developers need to be successful? Technical skills. For me, the skill that you only need for you to be successful in terms of cloud development, well, basically, if it's really development, it's development itself. You need to have development. You need to have skills of a developer. But I think the question also would directed in terms of implementing cloud, no, because generally, once you're a developer, you know to implement it in different areas. No, you can do it like you can do it natively, no, or locally. You can do it in cloud. So I think that's it. No, I think for me, and I always joke this during talks, no, that usually the competency that you need for you to implement in the cloud is you know how to read. You know how to read. But on the technical side, joking aside, no, cloud developers should know how to implement things online. It's a crazy premise for a developer, for an ICT, for a programmer not to know how to host things online or to use online tools. But well, that's a crazy one, but some dumb developers are like that. No? You should know how to yun, migration. You need to know how to migrate things. You need to know how to put things, no, put your systems online. And I think that's the that's the that's the technical skills that you need other than development. Because if you're the developer and you have the correct practice of a developer, I think it's easy for you to do cloud development. Am I right, Pat? If Patrick is here, give me a thumbs up, Pat, if I'm correct. Because nasanay kasi tayo, no? I don't know if Sir Jericho is a developer or a student. Nasanay kasi tayo of doing things locally, correct? Like when we do our thesis or our SAD or soft-ink projects, we don't host it online because the purpose of our SAD soft-ink project is to present it to the panelists. And that's usually the problem with schools and universities not being able to implement those systems online, correct? Na we only present it locally, no, present or have it hosted locally. And we usually forget the component of hosting online. So yun. So yun, I hope that answers the question. Sir, second question po. How can you define cloud computing to someone who doesn't know it? That's a very that's a very blogger question. There is this very fascinating Wired, no, from Wired or Business Insider. I forgot, no, how to explain cloud computing to a kid. So that's basically the question, no. Okay, how do you explain cloud computing to a kid? Okay. So I tend to be wordy, so it's very difficult for me to really put it in words na medyo non-technical. But the basic thing is that cloud computing is what makes the things that you like to do on the internet possible. No, you can store the files online because of cloud computing. You can your Google Mail can identify what is spam email or not because of cloud computing. Okay, your Lazada and Shopee knows your interest because of cloud computing, no? Because of data, well, not cloud computing per se, but because of data analytics. But your data is uploaded in the cloud, man, no? But it's made possible because of the way that transactions and processes, no, the things we do, not use the things the things we do is enabled by cloud services or by the cloud. So yun. So I'm not so sure if that made justice, no, in terms of answering that question. It's very difficult, really, but yeah, cloud-based services makes things possible, really. We have large amounts of data for data scientists and data analysts to process because there are a lot of data uploaded to the cloud. That's one. Okay, and then the second one is that we know a lot of things online because we upload things in the cloud. So yun. And the downside, tama si Sir Jeremiah, that suggested videos are because you know the transaction, but that's a very ethical, no, question. Sir, what supplementary materials or online courses can you recommend po if you have in-depth study on cloud computing? This is the good thing about well, the cloud. When you want to have an in-depth understanding of cloud computing, identify first what specific vendor or what specific cloud service you want to learn. This is a common competency that is popular, no, with developers right now, or not developers, sorry, with ICT professionals right now. If you have an AWS certification or you know AWS, a lot will hire you because a lot of systems are in the AWS. Or you know how to implement Azure, or you know how to implement in Google Cloud, for example. So it depends really, because there is no one general cloud-based solution. The solutions that are provided by cloud-based services and platforms are tailored to those who created it, tailored to to the services that that's wrong, tailored to the developers or the providers. So if you want to learn AWS, you can specifically learn AWS. If you want to learn a much more general theoretical basis for theoretical understanding of cloud computing, then you can refer to books, no? Refer to Udemy, for example, or other course like Coursera. But that would give you only the more theoretical side of things. But for specific ones, you need to identify if what specific vendor or solution that you would really study in depth. Okay? Because iba-ibang configuration yan eh. I hope that answers your question. Sir, any entry-level job for cloud career path? Job. There are yun, as I've said, no, there are a lot of organizations that hires those who have certifications like AWS or Azure. So it starts with the certification first. If there are free certification, then good. If you can get free certifications, then good. If you want to pay for it, then okay. And then your certification would really help out in terms of becoming a cloud, having a career, the cloud, quote unquote cloud path, or doing cloud computing. So yun. By the way, I might be, some of you might be better, are cloud professionals who do cloud computing, professionals. You can answer, by the way, no? We can foster very good discussion if you know much better than I am. So just tell me, or put it in the chat. Okay? So yan. Sir, how safe are the files in the cloud? How safe are the files in the cloud? As I said earlier, no, kaninang morning, nothing really is absolutely safe. But the cloud, no? The cloud helps us as well in making things safer. As I indicated earlier, Google knows what a spam email is because we put our emails in Google's care, no? We put it in the internet, in the cloud. And there's a mechanism or analysis that they do, no, in terms of filtering spam emails. But really, files being secured online, it's really not guaranteed. But as I indicated earlier, it depends on the security protocols of your provider or your service provider. Okay, so yan. And then what, Sir Joshua, what makes cloud computing scary when a video specifically recommended for you on social media? It's scary because I think Sir Jeremiah emphasized it in the chat, and then Sir Joshua asked, no, what makes it scary? It's scary because it means that you are being monitored. And no one's likes to be monitored. No? That is a different lecture, no, it's a data privacy lecture, but the gist of it is that we upload we not just upload, we upload data, we do things in the internet, and those are processed, no? Those are analyzed, and hence a computer might know much better than would know better about you than other people would know about you. No? Computer might know better even about yourself than yourself. So that's the creepy part of things. No? So yun. Sige. Okay, sige, let's proceed. No, let's proceed so that we'll have a break. Siguro mga 2:45. Sige. So, yeah. Let's start, no? So let's start with the second half, no, of our. This is much more shorter, but it's much more. There are a lot of concepts here. So let's talk about cloud adoption framework because more than as I indicated earlier, there is a need for in-depth planning for a smart planning in terms of transition to ICT and furthermore transition to cloud-based services. So we need to at least have a framework and identify different key dimensions to help us out in our implementation of cloud-based service. So the decision-making process to move to cloud is to first think and envision the transformation to establish the strategic intent of the transformation. Then next, balance the transformation to decide what works best for the enterprise. And then lastly is to try on new foundations to realize the strategic outcomes at scale and over a sustained, period. Okay? So yun. So, wala lang ha. Okay. So, first is you need, as I've indicated earlier, think and plan. Envision the transformation, establish the strategic intent of transformation. When you go and look at your processes and system, and you would say, I'll go to the cloud, I'll shift to the cloud. Would this be enough? Would this help the organization better? To be better? Would this incur more costs? Would both the positives and negatives, would this be a good investment? So things like that, you need to look at it at that. You need to think at first, no? So yun. So you should plan. You should plan as to the movement to the cloud. Make it worth. Make it a worth. Make it. Sorry, not make it, but identify it's worth the move. Then balance the transformation to decide what works best for the enterprise. And what do we mean by balance the transformation? Again, there are different tools that are available for cloud. And I might be able to show it to you later if the time permits. No? You need to balance out what tools and technologies would be beneficial for you, what tools and technologies would be good for your organization, what you can forego and not use. Is the plan given to you by your service provider flexible for you to opt in and out? Things like that. So balance it first. Again, you plan it, identify what would be the processes and how would cloud be able to help you out or your organization, and then balance out the features that you have in your services. And then that's it. No, you will be able to balance. And then after that, thrive on new foundations to realize the strategic outcome at scale and over a sustained period. So you don't think about the benefits now. You would think later on. If you have more data already in your repository or in your database, would you not analyze it? You already have sales data. Now, you can now see, mas marami pala ang bumibili ngayon ng sabay hot item karon sa kuan because of TikTok. Mas marami pala ang bumibili ngayon ng what we call this bisikleta, no? Because mataas ang gasolina, for example, no? Because of the high prices of gasoline, no? Or of petroleum. So okay, so I think I will need to add more inventory to bicycles or bikes, certain types of bikes or parts of bikes, so on and so forth. Because that is the more profitable one. But you can only understand that if you analyze the sales trend. Correct? And analyzing the sales trend can be difficult, especially if you have lots of data. But it can be easier if you have a feature, if your service provider had a feature of analyzing your data. And because of that, you would have an insight. So I can analyze my sales much further. I can analyze my sales in the long run, given these considerations. So I might be able to expand my organization. So that helps you expand. Not just the cloud-based service is expanded, but also your business as well. Okay? So yun. So Transformation involves much more than technology alone, and always think about that. People, processes, information, and even cultura or culture are most important factors. No, that is to be considered like a lot, especially people. One of the most, and the developers can attest to this, and I am sure that the developers can attest to this, that most of the difficulties encountered by developers, because in the Philippines you have a practice of the developers being the one who would deploy, they would encounter a problem that some of the people are hesitant or resistant to change. Correct? Tama ba mga developers? Na ay, hindi ko mo gamit, ayaw kong gumamit niyan kasi happy na ako sa papel. Diba? Ganyan, may mga ganyan na mga statements. Or, kapagod magtuto ng bagong sistema. Diba? Ay, ka-stress, may bago na namang assignment. Ganyan. So those are stress, that developers encounter every day. People are major considerations, in our transformation to ICT, di ba? So Sir Kenneth attest to it. So yun. So therefore, and then processes as well. You need to identify what processes can be automated, what processes can be digitized, what processes can be converted to the cloud, so on and so forth. Information, what information goes in and out of the system. And lastly, culture. Is this suitable for our workplace? Is this good for the benefit of the organizational culture? So things like that. So therefore, kulang og E, cloud process adoption, and digital transformation come with challenges and exacerbate friction in existing constructs, which needs to be addressed for successful outcomes. You will need to really understand. You really need to understand that frustration would become one of the biggest enemies in ICT implementation. If you implement a cloud-based service that is so laggy that your employees would have a problem with it, then you created more of problems than solutions. So there is a need for you to really properly implement it, and then hence thinking and envisioning the transformation is very, very important. Okay? So yun. So panakon na change the day na kung pa Mindanao cluster 1 pa dapat region 11 and 9 na BASULTA. So yun. So what are the different digital transformation challenges? So these are possible areas of friction adopting, these are possible areas of friction when adopting to the cloud and digital transformations. First, organizations moving to the cloud must make migration and modernization decisions to determine the best fit for existing application and data. It becomes a task for higher management and even middle management and sometimes even lower management, to really find best fit solutions for existing applications and data. If you are starting from the ground up, and you would start ground up, it might be much easier to start from scratch than to start from a process that has been existing for quite a long time already. And that is a problem that we have in the Philippines, that we sometimes our organizations, have some certain level of hesitancy because we already set up quote-unquote good solutions or quote-unquote good strategies. Okay? So yun. So some lang, some. Di man lahat. We have started naman of making good solutions. That's the positive side, and let's give our friends from the DICT, some credit, because the DICT has been implemented on 2016, because of the DICT Act, of 2015. So it was implemented 2016, but within the 6 years, in fairness naman, may traction naman yung ating friends from the DICT, No? So not all government institutions, but there are some government institutions that have some problems, no? But we don't, we cannot name names here, but being citizens and encountering some processes with government, um, yun, medyo kailangan no na sometimes kasi it's ego. This is also one problem that developers encounter. No, you have a senior developer and then the ego of the senior developer will say, hey, that solution is correct already. It's fast, it's running. But actually, there is a better solution. No? So that becomes a problem as well because we are not able to determine the best fit solution for existing best fit solution for modernization and migration of current and existing applications. Yeah, and then very correct, no? Sir Jason, no, indicated it correctly, no, that but there are also cost and process consideration that we need to consider. Okay. Organizations require the right talent to fuel innovation and usually require organizational culture upgrades to support new ways of working to achieve the intended velocity of change. Because there might be a need to rapidly implement things and dapat you have the right people to navigate and to steer. Imagine having someone drive a F1 formula race car, no, or formula race car, and does not know how to steer, no, the wheel. So you might get into trouble because it's so fast that steering becomes an essential part of the race itself or the driving itself. So sometimes we forego steering the wheel because our speed is not that high, no. But when you, di ba, when we drive, no, when we drive, as our speed increases, the importance of really holding the wheel increases as well. Well, it's very important to hold the wheel all the time. Some people only hold one hand, no? It's very important to hold the wheel tightly, no? Or hold the wheel properly, not tightly, because that's also dangerous, no? Hold the wheel properly because you're fast. And that's same with organizations. Once you are intending for a fast, rapid change in the organization, particularly transitioning to cloud or ICT-based services, you need to have people who would properly steer or navigate this transition. Okay? So, ganon. Okay? The next is organizations can encounter risk as tool selections made for traditional enterprises application development may not be the right ones for development to the cloud. No? So, yun, the fit of the solutions. You need to identify what works for you and the organization. You just don't throw away money because some service provider, some sales agent went to your organization and, sir, ma'am, ito po yung solution namin. This is the perfect solution for your problems, blah, 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 blah. No? But it's not pala. So you need to have an in-depth understanding of what really are the problems in your organization and how would this technology solve those problems. Yeah, medyo may konting discussion na, no, sa ating group chat. So yeah, but this again, this is not exclusive to government offices, by the way, and most are private institutions rin ang may problema with organization with transition to ICT. Next, organizations require a development methodology that is suited for both cloud and cloud-enabled and cloud-native development, as well as enabling management and delivery in a multi-cloud model at scale. So you will need to have a proper plan, a proper methodology that enables both cloud-enabled and cloud-native development, meaning that what solutions are to be uploaded online, what solutions are to be should be held locally, what solutions would be given for end users online, and then what would be the solutions for your organization. So you need to think about those as well. And then organizations face operational challenge in integrating and managing and securing off and on-premise applications and data as a consistent whole. So yun. Well, these are common problems naman, no, and even in other organization transformation, not just digital, but even for like mga kanang mag-merge ang mga companies and so on. But these are common problems that we encounter. Okay. So, since cloud adoption and business transformation can have reaching effects, to an organization, and because getting started on this project can be quite daunting, cloud frameworks identify several important dimensions to focus on. These dimensions are observed to have direct effect in business. And what are these key dimensions? Okay, so these are the key dimensions of cloud adoption. So we have first culture and organization. And then we have architecture and technology. We have security and compliance. We have emerging innovation spaces. Next, methodology. Next, service management and operation. And then last is governance. Then this does not pertain to public governance, but also governance in general. Okay, governance, both private and public. So culture and organization. So develop culture that encourage innovation, align organization with goals of the business to catalyze and accelerate innovation and execution. So we need to develop a culture that accepts and aligns the goal of organization to catalyze and accelerate innovation and execution. Culture is very important. That's very, very important. We need to really understand that culture is a driving factor, in terms of the success of transition or adoption of not just with cloud, but also with other technologies. Also, architecture and technology. So refine the overall cloud technology vision with an understanding of the desired state and relevant enterprise goals, including workload and data. So you would also need to understand but you also need to properly envision how the technology that you will be using can supplement or help in the work that your organization does, and what are the expectations in terms of improving productivity, improving efficiency and effectivity, no? So yun. Wait. So yun. Okay, so yan. So, sir, question here. Sir, naisip ko, sir, do you think cloud computing should be made part of the general skill set that 21st century professionals process? A very good question, no? So Sir Jeremy said, do you think that, given that technology, robots, or AI will replace manpower or labor force, do you think cloud computing should be made part of the general skill set that 21st century professionals possess? Okay. I want you to this is a very good question, but it is a good perfect time to correct our notion about technology as well. No, we should have a positive direction or positive outlook of technology. That technology would help us dignify our work. No, technology is something that will not replace us. It can, and it is possible. But we as ICT professionals, we as users of ICT, no, we should understand that we need to properly implement solution to enable people to work with dignity. So mana always, no, AI, labor force, I'm talking about ethics, no? Learning about cloud computing, blockchain, other emerging technologies, learning about data science, data analytics, informatics, no, other types of other sub branches of informatics, no, and ICT, engineering, for example, no. These are very important competencies for us not to get behind, to lag behind with other countries. I mean, as I said earlier, no, I'm actually doing my talk in not in the Philippines but in Singapore, no. But you would be amazed with how Singapore is advanced, so advanced, no, that you would see cleaner robots, for example. So things like that, no. So yes, no, technology should be part of the general skill sets of not just professionals but of students, no. Technology is an important educational training, no. It's very important for people to learn about technology and its proper use. Not just cloud computing. Cloud computing is just there, no. It's we use it at all times, but it's more of the in-depth understanding of what its capabilities, of its ups and downs, its pros and cons that we really need to have. And I'm very familiar, no. I'm very familiar. I'm familiar, no, that our senior high school has the emerging is it an emerging technology, no? Emerging technology subject, correct? Diba? Enabling technology subject, correct? No, enabling technology na subject. So that helps, no? And kudos to the ICT teachers there, no. I really upload the ICT teachers there, no. So very, very, you know. Okay. There is an we are already I don't know, going out of topic, but I want to indulge, no, this conversation regarding ICT professionals. Kaya maraglingaw man siya na conversation. It has been a common problem with some government institutions that it's quite strict to hire IT personnel in government. And certification are not necessarily recognized, no. Mahirap siya, no. So yun. So there is a need to really hire experts, if not really quote unquote experts, no, but very talented, kita na kung nagreklamo sa sweldo, very talented IT officers, no? IT officers in the government. And I salute also the IT officers in the government. I know you are tech support, taga-ayos ng printer at computer, tagagawa pa ng software, kagagawa pa tagagawa ng software, taga-training ng IT, taga-punta ng training ng DILG, nagapunta ng training ng DICT. So very, very, it's a very taxing work, no. So but it's good that you are attending these emerging technologies and attend tomorrow's session and Thursday's session and Friday's podcast as well. Okay, so next, security and compliance. Understand and establish key considerations for holistic cloud operations, including cloud risk, security, and compliance. As I've said, there is no fully or absolute secured system. You need to understand that there are vulnerabilities everywhere, and you need to solve those you need to consider those vulnerabilities. Next, emerging innovation spaces. Understand and take advantage of new and emerging technology. Get business buy-in and showcase and technically validate for viability and feasibility. Our technology nowadays is fast moving. It's improving at a fast rate. Pero nag-plateau na daw ta, no, in terms of our technological improvement. Pero it's still fast, no? It's still rapidly changing, no? Our iPhone changes every year. You need to really have buy-in from the organization that this technology would help out productivity and efficiency. So, methodology, Focus on agile practices. Someone indicated agile kanina in the chat. No, I was able to see it. I was able to see the katawa ko sa chat. I was able to see someone who said agile practices. No, so focus on agile practices, software development. Why agile? Because you can easily transition or pivot, or easily just the process of agile, agile development is much more flexible. So you plan, you develop, you deliver, and operate, and then find improvements of the system, and that does not end. Does not end until you decommission the system. And then service management and operation. Define the cloud management framework, process, and practice for the operational environment. Take note that implementation of cloud-based services does not only affect ICT processes. It also highly affects our organizational our management and organization, even especially the higher level. And then last is define governance frameworks and catalysts for cloud acceleration. So you need to plan out how to accelerate the usage of cloud and find ways to change or transition towards cloud. Okay. So what are the steps in the adoption journey? So at least you have what they call this, an idea to what would be the process of adopting to cloud. So creating journey maps specific to organization can help you achieve the outcomes that you have defined. In a rapidly changing agile environment, start quickly by understanding business needs. So I've been repeating this over and over now. So yeah. So steps in the adoption journey, or cloud adoption journey. Okay. So, So first step is to understand strategic intent. What is the direction of the organization? Understand and evaluate the strategic intent of the business Prepare for your cloud adoption journey by evaluating technology and understanding key adoption practices and the effects of organizational change. Take note that once you implement a cloud-based service, you avail of a cloud-based service, you transition to cloud-based services, and even in other ICT services, it will affect your organization. Prepare for it, understand what will happen, and identify the possible effects to this. Next, identify strategic opportunities. Identify opportunities to accelerate digital transformation by acknowledging maturity levels across capabilities. Some of us might have departments or subunits in the organization that can quickly adapt to technological change. Some might not be. So identify what possible strategy would you implement for you to rapidly, not just rapidly, but to effectively implement this strategic change. Next, ideate and prioritize. Evaluate and prioritize ideas and recommendations. Leverage attributes such as visibility, impact, and cost to prioritize transformation activities. So identify, as I've said, you should plan ahead, evaluate and identify what should be needed in terms of this transition. Okay. Next. Cloud strategic intents. Cloud strategic intents. Mali na. Kuha na. Steps in. Kuha na. Mali na siya. Dili na cloud strategic intents sa mga na itong cloud strategic intents. Kuha na siya. What we call this, steps in adoption journey na siya. Mali lang na siya. Pilot and pivot. So a pilot and prove. Once you pilot to a very accepting subunit of the organization, identify problems and then pivot and then prove that it is a viable solution to the upper management. Then scale. Once you're able to prove that it's a valuable investment, scale, take iterative approaches or steps to validate approaches and confirm technical decision and begin adoption at cloud models at scales. Okay, and then I think this is the last one. Okay, the last one, defining strategic outcomes. Capitalize on proven success, learn from feedback, and achieve benefits as you transform your business processes. This is a strategy that can be applied in other transformation or adoption in ICT adoption as well. So many companies today are expanding into cloud computing as a way to reduce the cost and complexity of delivering traditional IT services. But determining the best mix of public and private cloud services and data services is complicated. That's obviously that is true, no? Medyo kuha na siya kanang common icon. That's true, no? It's very complicated. You have to look at your business requirements for performance, availability, and security, and the workloads that you need to support. Take note that when you adopt the cloud, it does not necessarily, even though it's flexible, even though it's easy to implement, it does not mean that it's easy as well, really for ICT practitioners. But there might be some resistance. It's easy to implement, it's hard to enforce, especially in ICT systems. So mao na siyang problema. Sometimes it's easy to implement, but it's hard to enforce or promote. So that's So an organization typically has different types of workloads to manage in its data center that may be better suited for cloud environments. So to optimize your economic benefit from the cloud, you must first have an understanding of your workload. Katawa ko sa mga chat online na nangita og trabaho. Okay. Have a good understanding of your workload requirements. Okay. It's a balancing act. So, yeah. So hello, good afternoon again. Hello. Thank you. Sige, let's. We are at the last part, no, of our discussion for this afternoon. We will be discussing cloud security, which has been one of the major questions of some of our participants kanina. So let's talk about security, no? Security, cloud security rather. So I think we can finish this less than an hour. So we're down to our last 23 slides. Okay. So yeah. So how secure is cloud? No, is the cloud. So when we talk about security, no, as I've said over and over, security is there's no such thing as an absolutely secured system. We can only try our best to secure our system, but given that technology is a tool, given that technology is created by a person, tools and technology are created by people, not just a person, but people, it is bound to be outsmarted, no, in a way. So there are risks associated with cloud, but there is a data. Well, Google was quite honest about this, no, but they've created a video on data risk, in cloud security. So I hope I'll stop share muna. I forgot to share my sound. Okay, so the idea, we'll talk about it na lang, no? We'll talk about it na lang because I think I have some problems with my audio. So cloud computing and the emerging mobile development platform have the potential to deliver benefits, very big benefits, potential benefits. They pose new challenges to system and security and reliability, though. There's no perfect solution. There is no perfect technology, and it would be it is a reality that we need to address. Okay, so we now describe some of these challenges and how they should be addressed. So When processing takes place in the cloud, accountability and responsibility for protection of sensitive data still reside with the company owning that data. Okay, so understanding how the cloud computing provider organizes its services and manages the data is very, very critical. The there is a interactive session on technology describing how sophisticated web-based firms can experience security background. Sorry, I forgot to include it there. But ideally, and in the Philippines, those who created the system, the owner of the system, and obviously the one who is the custodian of the data, he is primarily responsible for any breaches, even though it happened in the cloud. There is a liability for the provider or the service provider or the vendor, but there is much, but the owner of the data was also held liable. So you should be careful as to what services should be availed, for the from the cloud service. Cloud computing is highly distributed. So cloud applications reside in large remote data centers and service farms that supply business services and data management for multiple corporate clients. So to save money and keep costs low, cloud computing providers often distribute work to data centers around the world. So that's why you saw the data centers kanina in the map, where work can be accomplished most efficiently. And then those who avail of the service can directly connect to that data centers. When you use the cloud, you may not know precisely when your data are being hosted, and that makes certain problems in other countries because of some law consideration, like in the US, for example. His data travels across the globe. So travels across the globe. It's the US government can monitor, can monitor citizens because it travels outside. And our data in the Philippines, if for example, the organization, the website uses AWS, so most probably your data traveled to Hong Kong or to Singapore, so that it can be processed, or the data, since the data repository is, the service provider and their data repository, the closest one is most probably is in Hong Kong or Singapore. So the dispersed nature of cloud computing makes it difficult to track unauthorized activity. That's the problem. Virtually all cloud providers use encryption, which the basic level of security is encryption, and such a secure socket layer, or SSL, to secure the data that they handle while the data are being transmitted. But if the data are stored on devices that are also store other companies' data, it's important to ensure the stored data are encrypted as well, meaning that you have a localized encryption in your data. So that is a good practice to do. You should encrypt on your own and then upload the encrypted data online. So there are processes of doing ways of doing that. So kana siya. So sorry about certifications, no? Yeah, but it's expensive. So security issues for cloud computing. So one is that responsibility for security resides with the company owning data, not with the provider entirely, or not AWS, not Google entirely, but it's you. There might be investigations it's not you, it's AWS and Google, but that's very hard to prove, no? And then ensuring protection. Firms must ensure providers provide adequate protection. So check if the providers give proper security, has proper security protocols, and has proper implementation of their security tools and technologies. So you need to check where their data are stored. If it meets legal privacy laws, particular here in the Philippines, or if it meets our RA 10173, 10175, 10173 requirements, and then if it does not violate 10175, segregation of data from other clients, meaning that you need to check if there is a need to distribute or to have different data collections or data repositories for different clients or different transactions. And then audit and security certifications are also important, meaning that your own organization should be able to check nor audit your security as well. It is not enough that Google or AWS or Azure or Microsoft is putting in security features. You should also look at your own security as well. You should be responsible for your own security, because you might have access keys or passwords that are being monitored by other people, and that becomes a problem. And then you check the service level agreement, or what we call as SLAs. So cloud users should also ask whether cloud providers will submit to external audits and security certifications. These kind of controls can be written into the service level agreement that you would sign with the contract or sign as a contract with the cloud provider. Okay. Traditionally, security concerns have been the primary obstacle for organizations considering cloud services, particularly public cloud services. In response to demand, however, the security offered by cloud service providers steadily outstripping on-premises security solution, because it's secured already, and their solutions are secured. But then again, check your own security, your own computers, your own laptops, if it's secured or not. Okay, just to be sure. According to security software provider McAfee, today, as at the current times, 52% of content companies experience the better security in the cloud than on-premise, because physical on-premise solution also have vulnerabilities in a way. And Gartner has predicted by the year 2020, infrastructure, this is 2016, so more than 52% na. Infrastructure as a service cloud workloads will experience 60 fewer security incidents than those in traditional data centers. Okay, so yeah. So the dispersed nature of cloud computing, tama. The disadvantage in terms of data privacy for the dispersion of data in cloud computing makes it difficult to track, makes it difficult to track. Nibalik tanong, I'd just like to emphasize this point. It becomes it's also difficult, since it's difficult to track, it might be difficult to patch up as to collect, So there are a lot of instances wherein there is the monitoring is in the middle of the network, and once you're uploading, you get monitored, and there are a lot of vulnerabilities, as I indicated earlier. So cloud clients should find how the cloud provider segregates their corporate data from those other companies and ask for proof that encryption mechanisms are sound. So always be smart and ask. That's not a big problem to ask if their security mechanisms are okay or not. So always ask what particular are they secured. They would always say they're secured, but research, look at the problems that they encountered for the past years, if there are no breaches or there are no problems in their cloud service. It is also important to know how the cloud provider will respond if a disaster strikes, whether the provider will be able to completely restore your data, and how long it should take in case there will be problems. The good thing about having multiple data centers is that they might have certain redundancy measures, meaning that they are implementing in different sites, or they have backups in different sites, which helps in backup, in times of problems with the original data center that stores your data. So what are the best practices in the cloud? So according to the CSA, an organization dedicated to ensuring security best practices in the cloud, significant areas of operational risk in the cloud includes the following. 1, physical security. Cover security of IT equipment, network assets, and telecommunication infrastructure. Second, human resource security deals with the people side of the equation, ensuring background checks, confidentiality, and segregation of duties. Business continuity, ensuring that the provider meets its service level agreement with you, and disaster recovery. I'm not so sure this, and I think this is the last one. Remember, ay, sorry. And then you also have incident handling changes in the cloud, application security changes in cloud, identity and access management, and encryption and key management. So let's start first with physical security. As always, you should secure your devices. Only connect to networks that you trust. That's one. As much as possible, try to avoid public Wi-Fi and accessing important data that you have uploaded in the cloud. Always have a secured connection so that you won't have any problem. Do not lose your devices. That's also one. That especially if your devices are not locked. But the best thing is to lock your devices. And then you also need to handle or manage the human resource side. Maybe the people. Maybe you should ensure background checks that people won't not use your cloud infrastructure to do shady business dealings, and then you should have proper NDAs, for example, and then segregation of duties as well, meaning that only those authorized people can access certain parts of the system. Only there you should have proper authorization measures. And then business continuity, so that it would not be difficult for other people to implement or to re-strategize. Once you implemented the cloud, once you're not there anymore, you resign or left, or because of some unfortunate events, you need to have provide at least a good provide the agreement, the service level agreement with the provider, to other members of the organization, and ensure that this SLA is being followed through. We also have disaster recovery, meaning that check if what are the backup plans of your provider, or what are the measures that they can ensure that data will not be lost. Next, incident handling changes in the cloud. So working with your service provider, you should be able to identify incidents that happen in the cloud. You should work with your service provider to identify those incidents, and provide proper documentation and log analysis of so that you can properly identify the root cause of those incidents. And then you have application security changes in the cloud, uncovering exposed security threats in the public cloud. The CSA divides application security into different areas, including securing the software development lifecycle, authentication, authorization. These are common things when you're a developer. Identity management, application authorization management, application monitoring, application penetration testing, and risk management. And I think this should be discussed better in a separate session, particularly on a cybersecurity session. And then identity and access management. Only those who are allowed should access the computer resources. And then lastly, as I've said earlier, encryption and key management. Ensure only intended recipients receive data and can decrypt it. Data encryption, you know what data encryption is. It's using a set of algorithms, or a set of algorithm that can transform text into ciphertext, or or in a format that is not readable by other people, easily readable by other people. Nevertheless, maintaining cloud security demands different procedures and employee skill set than in legacy IT environments. So some cloud security best practices include the following. So yun, I've been in shared responsibility for security. So this is from another source, shared responsibility for security. Once we have, we need to understand that we should, if you are in an organization, you need to understand the different roles of the people that handles the security, that handles the system. Let them understand that that they might create problems if they are not secure themselves. So always let them understand that security starts from the person, from individual people, and then work way through it, briefing them about the implications they task to the organization, so on and so forth. And then data encryption, as I said earlier, is very important. And then user identity and access management. Okay. And then collaborative management, no? Proper communication and clear understand processes between IT, operation, and security team should be there. It is highly recommended that you follow the National Privacy Commission's recommendation on securing privacy in our systems. It is very important to think about those measures because it would help us in the longer run. You need to do a privacy impact assessment, most probably. Do your privacy manuals, and I think there are a lot of trainings from the National Privacy Commission and the DICT doing that. And then security and compliance monitoring. This begins with understanding all regulatory compliance standards applicable to your industry and setting up active monitoring of all connected systems. You should not be passive in terms of security, particularly for interconnected system. Look at any problems, look at any concerns, look at any issues that you've encountered, even though minor issues, because sometimes the minor issues open up the larger issues, particularly in ICT, like the Bangladesh heist. Develop a thoughtful approach to cloud security to succeed in migrating security risk. Part of this involves asking your cloud providers some tough questions. Do not hesitate to ask them the right questions because you're paying them. It may even include a visit to the provider's facility if possible. But if not, then ask them how secure their system is. Given that there are lots of liabilities that you will be encountering if you have some data breaches or some problems that you encounter because of your cloud provider. So the questions that you need to ask when you talk with a potential provider: what security policies that your provider has in place? Are they consistent with recognized framework and control standards, particularly here in the Philippines? Second, does the provider have any industry certification? Because there are some little providers that might not have. Third, how does the provider meet audit standards? Meaning that you should do they have proper auditing of their security systems? Does the survey provider have documented policies and procedure, including escalation procedures in the event of an incident? And how would they also deal with the National Privacy Commission once they have those breaches? How does the provider handle identity and access management? I explained identity and access management a while ago. And then how does the provider protect data? So look at their encryption systems, look at the fine print, what would be their mechanism, so on and so forth. So speak to your cloud provider regarding what data controls that they have. In addition, develop and publish a consistent set of rules and policies regarding the creation, capture, management, transmission, storage, and deletion of confidential and business data. So you should have that in place. You should assess properly your security measures, particularly if you're uploading in the cloud. Okay. Make sure that your provider also adheres to data location requirements dictated by certain governments, because there might be some differences in terms of liability if the data is stored in Singapore, for example, but the data subjects are in the Philippines. So may ganyan na mga dynamics. So data is the lifeblood of your organization and the lifeblood of any organization. So you don't want it to be compromised in any way, because that damages your reputation. Kitsa din who among you watch Attorney Woo Yung? Extraordinary Attorney Woo Yung. I like Korean drama a lot, so kasi nag-watch og Extraordinary Attorney Woo Yung Woodley. So yun, si Ma'am Dana nag-watch. Di ba mag-spoil note ako kinsa panahuman naman ang series. For those who don't want to listen to the last two episodes, turn off the speakers, and then I'll just thumbs up if I'm done talking or I'll just chat that I'm done talking about it. Tingnan mo naman ako example got. Sige, you turn off your speakers, sir. So, yun. So in that particular K-drama, if you are okay to be spoiled or you have watched already, di ba? The case there is about hacking, no, about security. And you see how complicated, you see how complicated the court handles this particular problem, no? At least as far as the South Korea courts are concerned. But it's similar in a way to our courts. It does not just it's not an easy thing to it's not sorry, let me phrase that first. It's not an easy thing to handle data, no? And hacking, it's not easy to do it. It's not easy to handle. It has a lot of effects. It might be the cause of the downfall of your organization. It might be the cause of the downfall of your business, because the people would avail of your services because they trust you, no? Your survival is predicated by their trust to you and your service. And once their data gets breached, you would have a problem. You would encounter a big problem. So in that particular K-drama, no, so there were different fines, no, there were different fines. So handling of that, there were different. It came to a point that it was so complicated, no. So yun. So I'll chat to everyone na dan ang uyong mo. Okay, so yun. So yun, di ba? Data is very important. That's the lifeblood of the organization. You need to secure it, and uploading to the cloud does not necessarily mean it's risky. No, there are always risks associated with everything that you do in ICT. It's just that you need to be smart enough to identify those risks, and you need to be smart enough to recognize those risks. No, to recognize and accept that there will be risks. So you should also back up data. So look at how backing up looking at how backing up mechanisms is provided by your provider. Okay, so yun. So before I end, I'll show you. No, I think it is a good and proper time, no, to educate people regarding data privacy, no, regarding data privacy. So I hope it's not my screen is not so privacy.gov.ph. So I'll just share screen so you would see here, no, the National Privacy Commission. No, I'm not from the National Privacy Commission, but the National Privacy Commission is a attached agency of the DICT, and it's very important for everyone to understand, no, how for everyone to understand data privacy, no, especially if you're doing cloud. So you should, at least I recommend that if you start with transitioning to cloud-based services, you do your privacy impact assessment, or what we call as PIA. Okay, so there are a lot of things that you can do. You can create your privacy manual. You should check if you can have the capacity to make your data privacy manual. So the PIA is actually as instrument for assessing potential impacts on privacy of a process, information system, program, software module, device, or initiative which processes personal information. From here, you would be able to identify how critical the information that you have, no, that you have online, that you will upload in the cloud. Because from here, you can actually identify how risky is the transition is. And from here, you would identify, the impact and the probability of your implementation. So there's a rating, and then you can work on it. No, once you see that that the impact of the systems that you have, um, in the at least in your users, no, the impact that it has in terms of privacy, you should you can pivot, or you can strategize, no. So I think that's a very important thing to really understand when you will transition to the cloud. Okay, so I'll just stop the sharing, no. So I'll just share at least, no, for everyone's ano, ay sorry, di ko maka-access, tama din for that. So yun, no. So I think that's it for this presentation.